welcome back to the vault. It's your boy MC Celestial Titties, and the film I'll be reviewing today is Eternals. So this just jumps right into it. This one opens with a text scroll offering some exposition before we meet all the Eternals as they battle a deviant. The review for this one is going to be somewhat different in terms of structure. I'll talk about what I liked first before I proceed to rip this film to shreds. Firstly, for the most part, the cast of this film are great. Richard Madden and Angelina Jolie and company all do great jobs and are a highlight of the film. The action is fun and the design of the deviants are well thought of. They look pretty cool. They're well thought out. The action sequences are nothing not seen before. But they are enjoyable enough to watch, certainly not boring. It was also great to get more information on the Celestials themselves, because we haven't really had a lot of information in previous Marvel films. They are huge in scale, which I really appreciate. Just the size of them is great to look at. The greatest thing about this film, though, and I'm not sure if this is a good or a bad thing, is the various costume designs of the Eternals, the combat armor. They are nice to look at, with calming colours for the eyes, and each actor looks great, in their respective suits, and are just great in their respective roles. Now, I take no pleasure in criticising any film as harshly as I'm about to criticise this one, but, needs must. Firstly, the text scroll at the start of the film felt lazy and like the writers couldn't be bothered to explain what Eternals and Celestials were visually through like a visual medium. And that doesn't even surprise me, as the script in general is just god-awful, clunky and slow-paced. And it's the script, because when you have such acting talents as Angelina Jolie and Richard Madden, and it's not because of bad acting on their part. I also don't think I've ever seen a Marvel film try to be funny and then fall so flat. The script writers literally had one of the biggest comedians on the planet, but utilised him so terribly. He was turned into nothing but a cheap Bollywood gimmick, which was just very weird and very odd. They also didn't even they really brushed over the whole not getting involved unless deviants are involved, but Thanos having the deviant gene would mean they would need to get involved against Thanos. It was just a throwaway line in the film, as we saw in the trailer, and it was never spoken of again. So terrible script. It generally felt like Chloe Zhao, who directed this, had no idea about the universe and characters she was dealing with. I haven't seen any of her other films, so this may be biased to me to say, but there were so many scenes that felt overindulgent and pretentious. I'm not too keyed up on the comics, but I felt like she didn't know what she was doing when she made Icarus the villain. If he does turn into a villain in the comics, then my apologies. I've said for the longest time that IPs like this, film studios need to hire directors who have knowledge of the universe and characters they are directing. A perfect example of this is the latest Star Wars trilogy. Compare that to The Mandalorian, that had showrunners who were huge fans of the IP, and you can kind of see my point. I'm also getting really quite sick and tired of and really losing my patience with Disney's progressive grandstanding bullshit. They just had to throw a gay relationship in there, and before people lose their minds, I have nothing against that being, added in for representation if it makes sense to the story, it makes sense from a narrative standpoint. But it was thrown in to appease vocal children on Twitter, a small vocal minority on Twitter, who have nothing better to do than shout about representation. They probably won't even watch this film, which is the funny thing. They'll shout about representation, and they won't even go and watch the film that has this representation in. And representation is important, but when a company cuts, a gay kiss so as not to offend the Chinese market, and we'll probably do the same thing again for that market and the Russian one with the gay kiss scene in this film, then it does just come off as pandering nonsense. I'm just so sick at the moment of actors not being hired anymore based purely on talent. Instead, we have a deaf actor hired who, unfortunately, isn't that great of an actress. That probably really harsh, and she's hired all in the name of diversity. Honestly, these characters are meant to be gods, and when was the last time you ever heard of a disabled god? Or, it kind of defeats the definition of what a god is if one of them is deaf. I did read that, because she can move faster than the speed of sound, it cause her to be deaf, but it's just bullshit, really, isn't it? Even despite all that, this film is just boring and overlong. I found myself extremely bored throughout the whole thing. You know, and you may think this review is a bit too harsh, but I'm just so tired of Hollywood not hiring based on talent anymore and constantly chugging out mediocre, bland shit like this. I'll do the 2 questions very quickly. Would I recommend this film? I would not recommend this film. But obviously, you know, if you're a huge Marvel fan, and you're one of these fans that, you know, you praise everything, you know, Disney and Marvel release, and you probably will enjoy this. As for this film belongs in the vault, I think you already know the answer to that. I don't think it deserves a place in the vault. I mean, more positives for it. I mean, the cinematography was really lovely, and there's some really nice, big, gorgeous shots. But it just wasn't enough to save this film. And I'm just so disappointed in Marvel and Disney, and, you know, and it's when they had such a strong film in Shang-Chi, which was just fun and action-packed, you know, and the characters were great, you know, and the story was great, you know, and then they released something like this, which is 100% just a film release so they could make it diverse, and the director, who had no idea what she was doing, was hired because she's a woman. And it's just, again, it goes back to my point of they've stopped hiring people based on talent alone. They're just hiring people based on skin color and sex and gender, and even, you know, that must be even more sexist and racist, surely. But I this isn't a political channel. I do digress. But there's that little shit star that's gone off, followed by a fucking massive ass Celestial. But there we have it, guys. There's my review for Eternals. If you've seen it, let me know what you loved down in the comments below. You know, if you've seen it and you hated it, let me know what you hated down in the comments below. From a lot of people I've heard, they just found it really fucking boring and tedious to watch. And as always, guys, if you like what I'm doing here, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, your pets, your families, your friendly neighborhood, fucking, I don't fucking know, friendly neighborhood superheroes who fucking are just fucking shit. It's funny how this video is longer than all my other fucking reviews when I'm hating on something. But there, as always, guys, peace and love.